My name's Ian. I'm an engineer. I'm a dad. I've done some business. I was feeling pretty down about the lack of meaningful progress about addressing climate change until I started to learn what people were doing with this molecule. Nitrogen, there's 78% nitrogen. It's really easy to get. But when you combine it with green hydrogen, you get a liquid. It's in a tank, it's energy dense, which means it's a lot more practical, right? You can ship it, you ship more energy per truck. It's not at high pressure. It's simple. This molecule is ammonia. If you make it with green power, it's green ammonia. I was just down at a conference for people in this space, the Ammonia Energy Association, AEA. And I was having coffee with some people who've been in this industry for years. And they said to me, Ian, the thing about this, the challenge, why we're not seeing it in trucks, why we're not seeing it in trains, is the greenhouse gas. And that is a very common belief. I said to him, there's some guys here at this conference I want to introduce you to. They're working on engines, they're working on catalytic converters. Things might be a little bit different than what you have come to believe. And he wrote me back after and he said, Ian, this is the holy grail. This is it. So let me tell you what's the holy grail, how it works. So if you Google ammonia, if you Google burning ammonia right now, it's got data that's, backed up with studies and stuff, but it's a little bit old. 3 years old, 5 years old, 20 years old. So what it's going to tell you is you have a laughing gas problem. When you burn ammonia, some of that nitrogen will react with the air and create N2O, laughing gas, or create NO or NO2. Those are called NOx. And even a little bit of laughing gas or NOx, it's like 300 times more impact on greenhouse gas effect, right? It warms the air 300 times more than carbon dioxide. So if you combust ammonia and have a little bit of these weird things come out of it, it's it's bad for the environment. Even though the inputs were green, it's bad for the environment. So I want to do a shout out to Seamus. There's a lab, a university lab, that has been studying ammonia combustion for years. Seamus was at the conference, had the opportunity to talk with him about all the research they've been doing and what they figured out about clean ammonia combustion, the conditions where when you combust it, you don't get the bad stuff. You get just nitrogen and water. He's got a company called Aza Power. We're not affiliated, but they can convert diesel engines, things like that, to run on ammonia and give you basically no emissions, right? Just clean, clean, clean. Now, if you combine what they're doing with Fukui and the team from Nikki Universal, what they've been doing on ammonia, like catalytic converters specifically for ammonia, now you have the engine and the catalytic converter and you're in really good shape. The Japanese have been leading the way on ammonia. They have been investing in this, in power plants and ships and in all sorts of things. So some of the great research, some of the great products are coming out of Japan. So why is this the Holy Grail? Yeah, I mean, it's simple. In many applications, fuel just makes sense. A liter of diesel, a gallon of diesel has 36 times more energy than a battery. So yeah, batteries might get better, 25% better, but they're not getting 360% better. And and so probably having a liquid fuel is going to make sense. It's going to make sense for a tractor that's tilling soil for 12 hours a day, a transport truck running across the country, or a train or a ship, or right? We use 100 million barrels of oil a day. Electrify where we can, but where we can't, we're probably going to need a fuel. So back to that Google thing, dirty versus clean. You've all burnt a candle. If the wick is a little bit long, you get some smoke. And what that smoke is, it's wax that's not really completely burnt. It's partly burnt. And I think of this like a ladder. At the top of the ladder, you have your fuel with all its energy in it, and at the bottom, all the energy is gone. You have your the most combusted it can get. But along the way, there's steps. There's intermediary steps that if the temperature's not right or something, the combustion can stop. So nitrous oxide or laughing gas, they're on the ladder. They're just part way down. They're not fully down to just nitrogen and water. But we can help things down this ladder. So first of all, like that wick, the work Seamus has been doing, figuring out the zones where it's happy to combust, where really you just get nitrogen, right? If on this graph, if you're a little bit too cold, you get laughing gas. If you're a little bit too hot in your combustion chamber, you get nitrous oxide. If your air fuel mix, which is the Y, if you have more ammonia than your oxygen can combust, what ends up happening is you have leftover ammonia in your exhaust. Okay. So a lot of research has gone into just figuring out where the combustion is really happy. And in their lab, they play with things, or they experiment with things. There's a number of things in an engine you can control. Your ignition timing, where in the stroke does the spark plug fire, how long it fires, your air fuel ratio, the compression, so how long, how much it's compressed is based on the stroke. Uh, diesel engines are designed to compress the gas more than gasoline engines. But then there's also the other end of it, just exhaust treatments. In your regular car, you have a catalytic converter, and that catalytic converter helps break down things that didn't perfectly combust in your engine. Um, so if you combust ammonia, you end up with water, you end up with nitrogen, you end up with a little bit of ammonia, depending on, if there's crevices in that combustion chamber, it can sort of hide in there and not get fully combusted. Again, depending on the temperature, you can end up with laughing gas or nitrous oxide. Uh, but these are partly combusted. So catalytic converter helps them do the full chemical reaction and just become air and water. Uh, how cats work is it reduces the amount of energy that reaction needs to take place for it to go from over here, which has some energy into it, and it goes up the energy curve and then down to fully exhausted. All the energy's out. That activation energy, um, I don't know if you've ever, turned on your car and immediately gone and smelt the exhaust. Sometimes you can smell a little gasoline. The this process gives off some energy, which heats up your catalytic converter, which helps the reaction 5 minutes later happen. Um, so it basically you don't have to put any additional energy into it as your nitrous oxide or your laughing gas is giving up energy. It's heating the cat, which helps the cat uh, continue to work. So Nikki Universal has this new cat. All right. It's not old technology, it's new technology specifically designed for ammonia. Um, I'm not going to go back, but in those zones where the ammonia combustion wasn't happy from Seamus, you could end up with a little bit of ammonia, a little bit of NOx, a little bit of laughing gas. In their testing, well, I mean, it's in ships. In their system, it gets rid of 99, 100% of these things we don't want. And yeah, it's got to work over the temperature range, but I mean, this is the range your exhaust in a vehicle is. This is the range of the exhaust in a Mack truck, in a train. This is this is all where we want to be. Um, so, just to make sure this worked, love seeing people get together. Um, I think Seamus took the samples from Nikki and took them home to experiment just to see if what kind of lab results he's getting. Um, Neat. So again, the Google info is old. Um, if you're to ask your smart friend who doesn't actually spend a lot of time talking about ammonia, thinking about ammonia, in their head, they're probably thinking about another catalytic converter. So when you combust diesel, diesel produces a lot of NOx, a lot of NO or NO2. Um, and so in big trucks, they have a selective catalytic reduction system in their exhaust, and they put a little bit of ammonia into it, which helps the NOx break down. Um, but as a byproduct of that, reducing the NOx produces laughing gas. Um, it's better than the NOx, but it's not perfect. But that's not the system we're talking about. We're talking about a different catalyst where the NOx doesn't produce laughing gas, where, okay, so people might tell you, yeah, but it still does that. That's different technology. So back to Holy Grail. If you were a farmer and you wanted to run your farm with green fuel, you need some green power, some electrolysis, and then you combine the resulting hydrogen with air. Rather than waiting on the whole grid, um, tractor companies to invent green battery powered tractors, rather than waiting on all that stuff, A, you can just buy the fuel. You can just buy green ammonia. And B, it's so simple, you can actually just make it. You can buy a system that comes in a shipping container that makes green ammonia. All right. So this green fuel, we're not waiting on anything. You can just do it. You can just go buy it. You can contract somebody to buy it. Like, I mean, if you're Amazon, it's a lot, right? You have a lot of trucks. You can buy it, pay one company, and they'll build you as much fuel as you want. Right? There's no exploration, there's no refining, there's nothing. And then when you combust it, right? You've got the right engine design, the right catalytic converter. Your exhaust is water and air. Now, ammonia's a little bit stinky, but I have started to really kind of warm up to this. In my head, I think of this fuzzy little guy who's just, hey, if it leaks, you smell it. If you don't smell it, everything's good. Things are good. So, you know, people people want combating climate change to be hard, right? They want it to be, um, you gotta conserve and everything's about efficiency, and we need this massive regulatory change, and we need everything to change, right? I mean, whole society is to change. The other way it could go is you buy green fuel, swap out some parts in engines, and drive on. Drive on. I I don't drive that much. The cost of fuel is not the biggest concern for me. If I could buy a fuel that was 100% green, no greenhouse gas, made from green power, and went into a Hellcat, right? Hellcat noises, or truck, right? Take your boat to the cottage. The cost premium to me is, I mean, compared to just the flexibility, it's green and you do it and you can buy it. And I mean, my grid's not green. There is no plan for my grid to be green. I'm in Canada. I My property isn't big enough for me to put up solar in a meaningful way that would change, but I could just buy green fuel and be green. So that's why this is the Holy Grail. Trucks, ships, planes, tractors. It's simple.